Hi, it's November 21st, 2007, and it's Rob Bryanton here from Imagining the 10th Dimension here in the chat window. Just before we start here, I'll give my little preamble that we usually do. If you're watching this at 10thdimension.com/chat, you'll see me up in the top left. The show you're watching right now actually is a pre-recorded show, but the text that's rolling underneath, assuming things are working correctly, is actually stuff that people are typing into the chat window so people can comment to each other as the shows are going by. Also, this is a Meebo room that part of the chat is coming from, so there is over to the right a bunch of links and thumbnails that you can click on to watch URLs and videos that have been posted by people who have previously been in the room. It keeps a record of about 16 or 18 of them, and so anybody who wants to post something that they think is interesting and hopefully relevant to the discussion, but we're pretty free-ranging here, so that does cover an awful lot of ground. If you want to just type a URL into this chat window, it will become part of the thumbnails over to the right, and so we do keep track of the stuff that people say into that chat room, and do try to respond to it. I admit I've been a little bit lax in that in the last week or so, been busy with other parts of the project, but we will be cleaning that up and making sure to acknowledge some of the things that people have been saying into that window. Actually, just before I started recording this show, I saw somebody had said, I don't know about all these songs, and I guess that's a background that people need to know about what's happening with this project. Is it actually started out as a set of songs that I'd written about the nature of reality that involved a 10-dimensional way of thinking about the nature of reality, and as I was showing people the songs, it became apparent that I was going to have to create a little booklet that explained the ideas behind it. That booklet ended up becoming the popular book Imagining the 10th Dimension, which is associated with this website, and this website's now surprisingly popular. It's a meme that is sweeping the world, to use the terminology we're often talking about here. 2 million hits a month right now, and it just seems like people really like talking about the nature of reality and how that relates to philosophy and the other metaphysical and scientific tangents that you can get into from this way of thinking. So today we're actually trying to duplicate a show that we recorded yesterday, and unfortunately there was a problem with the audio that meant the show can't be broadcast. So yesterday was kind of fun because we started the show with my dog buddy, Bichon. He's 105 years old right now, and he's almost 16. Which means, you know, he's getting on in age. He's actually completely deaf, and the vet says he's mostly blind, but he's still got that joie de vivre that everybody loves to see. Maybe, Jason, if you can... okay, we got that up on the video. You know, one of the descriptions I've made of life that can be general enough to fit with this way of thinking is life is any process that's interested in what happens next. And you know, when we look at somebody like Buddy, who has an interest in what's going to happen next from the moment he gets up to the moment he lays down for his nap to the moment he gets up again, and just through the day, there's always a certain joy in his approach to life that I think you know, a lot of us could take some lessons from. Buddy's got his problems, but he's still, you know, in there, and we're giving him the medications to keep him happy and reasonably pain-free, even though he's kind of limping from the arthritis in his legs and that kind of stuff. He's still having a pretty good time, loves to go for his walks every day. You know, one thing that came up while I was at the vet yesterday that I hadn't heard before is something has happened with grapes, where grapes can no longer be fed to dogs, and we don't know whether something has changed, if there's a new mutation in the dog genome that has made them somehow now unable to eat grapes and before they could. There's lots of dogs out there that still appear to not be affected by it, but if you have a dog that that is sensitive to whatever has changed here, it can be fatal. And my vet had just been at a conference on toxicology, and there are laboratory retrievers that have died from eating as few as 5 grapes. So it could be something that they're using in the fertilizer or in some kind of preservative or some kind of pesticide. Could be that some experiment has happened in genetically modified grapes that are now in the food stream that weren't before. And I'm not trying to push the GMO panic button here, but who knows what exactly has changed. But I just thought that was so weird because, Buddy, when he was a puppy, he ate grapes all the time. He loved grapes, and I wouldn't give him a grape now because even if I did, he wouldn't eat it. He's not interested in that stuff at this point. But it's just weird to think about how reality can shift like that. Anyway, let's move on to one of the blog entries that I posted recently, and this one is called "TENS, Google, and the Expanding Universe." And some of these blog entries are like braided knots that are made up of 2 or 3 or 4 strings that are all kind of braided together. And so this one takes the idea of tens, of groupings of 10. How Google is tracking the meme space that we're living in right now, and the expanding universe, and tries to fit all those ideas together in a creative way. So I'm just going to read that blog entry to you now, and then we'll talk a little bit about some of the ramifications from that. Are we approaching some sort of global shift in consciousness? And could that be triggered from higher dimensions? 2008 will be the 10th anniversary of the surprising announcement that the expansion of our universe is accelerating. An idea that seems counterintuitive. If our universe started from high energy, high order, the Big Bang, and is moving towards low energy, low order, maximum entropy, that implies the image of a clockwork toy that is winding down, and that image does not fit with a universe of accelerating expansion. This month's Scientific American features a great article about brains. That's B-R-A-N-E-S, not brains in your head, and how the accelerating expansion of the universe may be proof of the existence of higher dimensions. The article by Cliff Burgess and Fernando Quevedo is called "The Great Cosmic Roller Coaster Ride." Please check it out. 2008 is also the 10th anniversary of Google, the search engine that has changed the way we interact with information more than any other invention in the history of mankind. "Don't be evil" is their unofficial motto, and that's a great one. The power of Google to inform and guide the general public's impression of what ideas are important and what ideas are popular is immense, and the ongoing war from get-rich-quick scammers and spammers who try to manipulate Google's search results for their own profit is a huge part of that story. The imagining the 10th dimension way of visualizing reality can be used to tie all these ideas together. Information equals reality has been the prime focus of my blog entries in the last few weeks. This basic idea from quantum physics shows us how everything fits together, and the desire to find a unity within a diverse range of ideas is what this project is all about. If information equals reality, then absolutely everything about our reality can be thought of as patterns and shapes in the information that is the underlying fabric of quantum indeterminacy. Subatomic particles, fractals, life, consciousness, and our observed universe are all patterns that result from the flipbook of third-dimensional nows that we are stringing together from one frame of Planck time after another. In the Imagining the 10th Dimension animation, sound is an important part of the information being conveyed. For instance, no matter what dimension we are exploring, there is the arrow sound effect representing a particular point, a scrape indicating lines being constructed from joining one point to another, and the card riffling sound effect to show that anything we think of as a continuous line is actually being constructed one point at a time, if we can only look close enough. Burgess and Quevedo's article explains how our universe might be the result of the interactions of a 3-dimensional brain with a 7-dimensional brain. With the ends of certain superstrings constrained by brains, they are sliding around within. To use my flipbook analogy then, we can see how the illusion of continuous reality that we are experiencing is actually a series of 3D states for our 3D universe interacting with a 3D brain. And each observed state is one Planck length away from the next. Each observed state can be thought of as a page in a gigantic cosmic flip book. The flip book from the Big Bang to now appears to be one specific set of flip book pages, which we think of as the 4D line of time. But each next available now page that could be possibly selected for our flip book comes from a fifth dimensional probability space. And the fifth dimension is where Kaluza proved our reality is defined. And I should mention here that Einstein also agreed with that. Every parallel universe that could have resulted from our Big Bang, whether it is observed or not, exists as a potential flip book in the sixth dimension, and all those possible states are locked together by the seventh dimensional brain our universe is also interacting with. The idea I advance of our universe's basic physical laws being a result of our specific location in the multiverse, as a point in the seventh dimension or as a result of our interaction with the 7D brain, then can be tied into this concept. As usual though, I'll take pains here to caution readers that I'm not claiming my way of visualizing the dimensions is the explanation for string theory, any more than it's the explanation of Kabbalah, zero-point field theory, Japanese anime and video game plots, metaphysics, or any of the other diverse range of belief systems which fans of the 10th Dimension Project keep pointing me towards as having interesting resonances with my way of visualizing reality. From moment to moment, day to day, Google has been tracking the information that makes up our reality for almost 10 years. Ideas that can be tracked across time and space are known as memes. And physical objects that can be tracked across time and space are known as spimes. Which means that the flip book of nows we have imagined from the Big Bang to today can be thought of as a spime that represents the story of our current universe from its inception. And that idea is a very powerful meme. I've always marveled at the audacity of Google's "I'm feeling lucky" button. The idea that out of all the information in the world, Google might be able to show you the very best link of all still seems like mysterious magic to me. And I admit to never wanting to use that button because I like to have choices. Still, the Google Toolbar's Suggestions window is a great example of the accelerating information space we live in now. Try typing in just the letters of the alphabet, one after another, into that window, and read the top 10 suggestions, here's that number again, that come up for each. This gives you a snapshot in time of what is important, what is talked about, what is the dominant set of memes within our culture right now. Both memes and spimes are multidimensional shapes, each with a beginning and an ending someplace out there in the timeless multiverse. The feeling that we live in times that are accelerating towards something larger as a result of the rapidly accelerating meme space we live in might be connected to the same higher dimensional effects that are causing our universe to accelerate its expansion as well. I believe both are eventually going to be shown to be the result and the proof of higher dimensions in the information that is creating our reality. So that's the blog entry, and so I just want to talk a little bit about some of the ideas that are in that. First of all, the idea of dimensions is often dismissed by people who say, how can there even be any higher dimensions? How can you prove their existence? And this, particularly in popular books like Lee Smolin's The Trouble with Physics, is one of the basic criticisms that they have of any theory that requires there to be higher dimensions. There's no way to observe them. There's no way to prove them. So that's what's exciting about this idea of our accelerating universe, expansion of our universe, could be actually a proof of there being higher dimensions, because it could be that we are approaching another brain that is actually causing our universe to expand, and expand in an increasingly accelerating way, because that brain is becoming closer to us. And that relates to the idea of I've talked about here before, that it's actually the gravity is the only effect that physicists say can actually make its effects be known or felt across the higher dimensions. So it could be that that's what we're talking about there. The idea also that space-time is four-dimensional, I think relates very nicely to the idea that Kaluza proposed and Einstein eventually agreed with, that the basic reality for us is coming from the fifth dimension, ties really nicely to the idea then that you hear in things like or projects like the Elegant Universe, where they talk about how the dimensions above might actually be compactified down to the Planck length, and the reason that we can't see the higher dimensions is because they are down at such a tiny microscopic, submicroscopic level that that they're impossible for us to view. So if we take the idea of free will existing within the fifth dimension, then the 4D line of time that we're creating right now, from now to now in the flip book of time that we're creating, is an illusion. It's actually happening in a fifth dimensional probability space, and that means the Elegant Universe image of us being on this fifth dimensional wire, and that we're actually rotating around to create our reality within the higher dimensions, but we're unaware of it because we're like, as in the animation that I show, the Flatlander on a Mobius strip, we're not aware of the twisting and turning that we're doing in the higher dimensions. Once again, we've found a way then to tie all these different ideas together: higher dimensions, quantum physics and indeterminacy, Everett's multiverse, the many worlds theory, which he proposed way back in 1954, and ended up his theories now being embraced, but he actually quit quantum physics entirely because nobody would listen to him back then, and that idea was suppressed for decades. Now multi-dimensional reality, as it's defined from those higher dimensions, is starting to embrace the whole Everett multi-world or many worlds theory. It's interesting how memes, again, rise and fall in time and space, and the many worlds meme is much more successful now, much more recognized now than it was for all of Everett's life, which is kind of a sad thing to think about. Talking about memes then and how they rise and fall, let's talk about the 10th dimension meme, the way of thinking about reality that we're exploring here. When it was introduced to the world back in the summer of 2006, there was a big lump of enthusiasm for it right at the start, and then we got into about a year of the meme just kind of coasting, and then what's been happening in the last few months again is that meme is rising in popularity. More and more people are talking about it all over the world. Google then as a way to track memes is interesting. Like if you 2 years ago, before the book and this website were launched, were to type my name, Rob Bryanton, into Google, you would have found a bunch of stuff about my work as a composer and producer, and now if you type Rob Bryanton into Google, that stuff's probably way down there in the list still, but everything now, because a lot more of the conversation and texting and tag linking that's happening in the Googleverse, if you want to call it that, is about this 10th dimension project. So I've been talking about the idea that information equals reality. If you type those three words into Google now, you come up with a lot of the things that I've posted about those ideas, and I encourage you to do so, because it is an interesting way of seeing how Google tracks those ideas in time and space, and that if we're talking about anything existing out in the timeless multiverse, it has a beginning, it has a middle where a meme can be very popular, and you'll have an ending where that idea will eventually probably be subsumed by some other more all-inclusive idea that satisfies the critics of this one, who say Rob Bryanton's not a physicist, he doesn't know the math, how could he be talking about the nature of reality? I'm talking about it from an intuitive sense. I'm talking about it from a sense of trying to tie a lot of disparate threads together, and I say it with recognition that I'm not a physicist, and I don't want anybody to say that I'm trying to pretend to be one, because I'm certainly not, and I do try to make that clear on a regular basis. So I'm going to finish off this entry today with one of the songs that has been around now from the beginning of the project, and we haven't talked about for a little while, the anthropic viewpoint. And that relates to what I was saying just now about Everett's many worlds theory, which is the idea that from this moment in time, there are actually branching realities that are created by observation of the quantum wave function right out to the universe that we exist within, which means that if I got out of bed this morning and decided to turn left at the door or right at the door, that created branching universes where one or the other reality exists. And the quantum physics idea of the quantum wave function is actually resolved much more easily if you're willing to accept that. But when we talk about how could there be all these other universes that we're not able to witness, one of the explanations that is used is the anthropic viewpoint, which says we're in the universe we're in because it's the one we're witnessing to, or that we're observing as quantum observers. Those other observers that represent the other me's do exist out there in the multiverse, but that's not the one that I'm currently in. And this song then pitches those two ideas against each other. The one that says there is only one reality, it's the one we're in, and the kind of amusing chorus of the song, which says, in the anthropic viewpoint, the reason we're here is because we're here. And that actually explains a lot then if you're trying to imagine the entire nature of reality. So thanks for watching today, and do keep those comments coming. We're trying to respond to people who post comments on YouTube and here at the chat room and in the 10th Dimension forum. We've also simplified the address to get to the blog now. If you go to 10thdimension.com/blog, it's a little easier than the address that we've been using up to now. So here's the song, and thanks for watching. Bye for now.
Attention to the man behind the curtain. The only thing that I know for certain, and everything that you say and do, the only thing you know for sure is you. Believing that when you feel okay, you can live to fight another day someday. Pay no mind to those tiny little voices. Every day you gotta make some choices. Make them right and you can carry on. Make them wrong and you'll soon be gone. And if it seems just a little unfair, get used to it, 'cause the stars don't care, don't care. In the anthropic viewpoint, the reason we're here is because we're here. And if it were impossible, then we wouldn't be. If there's other worlds and we just missed them, no way to know what's outside our system. We're like goldfish living in a bowl. What's beyond that we can never know. All we can do is theorize, 'cause we can never get outside, outside. In the anthropic viewpoint, the reason we're here is because we're here. And if it were impossible, then we wouldn't be. So here we are in the hydrogen conspiracy. That's the way that it certainly appears to be. What's the reason? Where's the rhyme? How we end up on this line? All those other possibilities, they're just as real, but they don't have me. It's no big deal, not worth the fuss. They're just as real, but they don't have us, have us. But they don't have us. in the anthropic viewpoint. The reason we're here is because we're here. And if it were impossible, then we wouldn't be.
You'll see me up in the top left. The show you're watching right now actually is a pre-recorded show, but the text that's rolling underneath, assuming things are working correctly, is actually stuff that people are typing into the chat window so people can comment to each other as the shows are going by. Also, this is a Meebo room that that part of the chat is coming from, so there is over to the right a bunch of links and thumbnails that you can click on to watch URLs and videos that have been posted by people who have previously been in the room. It keeps a record of about ended up becoming the popular book Imagining the 10th Dimension, which is associated with this website, and this website's now surprisingly popular. It's a meme that is sweeping the world, to use the terminology we're often talking about here. 2 million hits a month right now, and just seems like people really like talking about the nature of reality and how that relates to philosophy and the other metaphysical and scientific tangents that you can get into from this way of thinking. So today, what is it, 16 or 18 of them, and so anybody who wants to post something that they think is interesting and hopefully relevant to the discussion, but we're pretty free-ranging here, so that does cover an awful lot of ground. If you want to just type a URL into this chat window, it will become part of the thumbnails over to the right, and so we do keep track of the stuff that people say into that chat room, and do try to respond to it. I admit I've been a little bit lax in that in the last week or so, been busy with other parts of the project, but we will be cleaning that. Hi, it's November 21st, 2007, and it's Rob Bryanton here from Imagining the 10th Dimension here in the chat window. Just before we start here, I'll give my little preamble that we usually do. If you're watching this at 10thdimension.com/chat, you'll add up and making sure to acknowledge some of the things that people have been saying into that window. Actually, just before I started recording this show, I saw somebody had said, I don't know about all these songs, and I guess that's a background that people need to know about what's happening with this project. Is it actually started out as a set of songs that I'd written about the nature of reality that involved a 10-dimensional way of thinking about the nature of reality, and as I was showing people the songs, it became apparent that I was going to have to create a little booklet that explained the ideas behind it. That booklet